The first shot cracked through the desert air, then another. Cleaner, sharper. Dust drifted across the Ravenhall Special Applications Range, glowing gold under the Mirzai Highlands sun. Rows of America's top Navy instructors were already in their rhythm-steady breaths. Crisp trigger pulls, perfect hits at 3,000 meters. This was where precision was worshipped, and arrogance wore rank insignia. But the laughter started when she arrived. Sierra Vale Rowan, 508. Athletic, no insignia beyond reserve. Markings walked onto the range carrying a long, black case that looked too heavy for her frame. The instructors exchanged smirks. She wasn't part of their circle, not wearing the trident, not one of them. Observer Slot 1 muttered. Let her watch from behind the line. CMDR, Adrian Kellen, the range officer, nodded politely. Ms. Rowan, feel free to take notes. These are specialized drills. Sierra's tone was calm, almost indifferent. Thank you. Sir, I'd like to participate if permitted. That earned a full laugh from Letty CMDR. Trent Mercer, the most decorated instructor present. This range isn't for demonstration. Ma'am, it's for performance. You sure you brought the right notebook? She didn't answer. Instead, she opened her case. Inside lay a Barrett M99 chambered in .416 Barrett, gleaming like a blade under the morning sun. She assembled it piece by piece, deliberate, efficient, surgical, no wasted motion. The instructors stopped laughing. Master Chief Jonah Pierce leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowed. He'd seen that kind of muscle memory before. Kellen crossed his arms. Fine. If you're going to make a point, make it quick. Distance 6,800 meters. The laughter came back louder this time. Mercer grinned. Lady, the bullet will die of boredom halfway there. Sierra's only response was to lie prone. Adjust her Night Force Attacker 735X56 and check wind drift with a Kestrel 5700 Elite. She whispered a short breath steady. Centered. Control tower. Target at 6800. Kellen said reluctantly. You're sure about this? Yes, sir, she replied, when the shot broke. It didn't sound like noise, it sounded like a statement. The recoil lifted dust. Then, silence. 1 second, 2, 9 full seconds of disbelief. Then, ping. The radio crackled. Direct hit. Center mass. Confirmed. No one moved. Mercer's mouth hung open. Kellen blinked twice, unsure he'd heard right. Pierce was the first to speak. That's not possible, he said softly. Sierra rose, detached her scope, and began cleaning the rifle like it was a routine maintenance drill. Physics disagreed, she said quietly. I corrected it. Pierce watched her leave, unease replacing awe. He turned to Kellen. Sir, she didn't just guess that shot. She calculated it. Nobody does that without years of classified range time. Kellen exhaled slowly. Get me her file. Every page. Moments later, a secure message blinked across the command terminal. Access restricted classification Project WRAITH. Kellen's expression hardened. What the hell is WRAITH? Pierce just stared after Sierra's retreating silhouette across the blazing range. She's not here to watch. Commander, he murmured. She's here to remind us what impossible looks like. The camera lingers on the shot marker at 6,800 meters wind, still whispering around it. Bullet lodged dead center. And somewhere in a sealed data vault, a redacted file flashes awake. Subject Vale 01 active. Where are you watching this from? Soldier, drop your location in the comments so we know how far this story's reaching. Hit subscribe because what happened after that shot would change everything they thought they knew about precision, loyalty, and the ghosts still walking among them. The desert had gone quiet after Sierra's impossible shot, but inside Ravenhall Command Annex, that silence turned into suspicion. Samdura, Adrian Kellen stood before the holographic display. Sierra's file flickering in red. Lines of text blurred under thick black redaction bars. No service record, no unit designation, just one clearance code pulsing at the bottom, Project WRAITH JSAD Internal, authorized by Director Cole Vance. He exhaled through his teeth. That's not a civilian clearance. Master Chief Jonah Pierce scrolled beside him. JSAD means Joint Special Activities Directorate. Whoever she is. She doesn't just shoot, she vanishes. Before Kellen could reply. Lota CMDR. Trent Mercer strolled in with a smirk that didn't fit the tension. So, what's the mystery? Our new prodigy bends physics, and command loses its mind. Pierce's tone was sharp. You saw that shot. It wasn't luck. Mercer shrugged. Everyone gets lucky once. Maybe her bullet had divine GPS. The terminal behind them chimed. Incoming transmission, Admiral Sloan. Priority 1. Kellen straightened. Patch it through. The Admiral's face appeared. Pale blue in the projection. Commander, I'm en route to Ravenhall. Keep the shooter on base. Do not question her. Do not brief her. Do not let her leave. You'll receive sealed orders on my arrival. Kellen hesitated. Sir, what exactly are we dealing with? Sloane's voice hardened. Not what? Commander? Who? And she's the reason a project we buried 6 years ago just woke up. The feed cut. Mercer let out a low whistle. Well, that sounded comforting. Pierce looked toward the observation window. He said 6 years. That matches the timeline of Kellen stopped him. Not here, not now. Outside. The sun was bleeding into the desert horizon. Sierra Vale Rowan sat alone at the far end of the range, methodically cleaning the Barrett M99 she'd used to rewrite every range record that morning. Pierce approached quietly. You always this calm after breaking physics? She didn't look up. Control is quieter than applause. He studied her face. You've done this before more than once. Her hands paused on the bolt assembly. Maybe I just remember it differently. Before he could press further. The roar of engines swept over the base. 3 black SUVs rolled up to the tarmac, their headlights cutting through the dusk. Admiral Sloan stepped out, flanked by security. Kellen met him halfway. Sir, with respect, what is Project WRAITH? Sloan handed over a sealed folder. Need to know. Commander, and right now. You need to know just enough. Assemble your best. You're standing at the edge of something called Operation Black Meridian. Pierce frowned, and the woman Sloane's eyes hardened. Not a woman, a designation. WRAITH 01, reactivated by direct authorization. Kellen opened the file, a single photo. Sierra in uniform, years younger. Same eyes, same calm. Beneath it, operational status. Active. He looked up. She's not just back. She's been waiting for this. Sloan gave a single nod. Then don't make her wait any longer. When the Admiral left. Pierce turned to Kellen. Commander, what does this mean? Kellen stared out toward the darkening range. Where Sierra stood against the wind, a figure half in shadow, half in memory. It means ghosts don't reappear by accident, he said. They're summoned. The rotor wash tore through the Mirzai Highlands, stirring dust and tension alike. Inside the low-flying Black Hawk, silence sat heavy, the kind that came before contact. CMDR. Adrian Kellen reviewed the mission brief one last time. Target General Alden Hart, Rogue Operations Commander. Objective: disable his extraction bird and recover stolen intel. Containment, not elimination, at least on paper. Across from him. Sierra Vale Rowan adjusted her headset. Her Barrett M99 rested by her boots, gleaming under the cabin light. You're sure about this distance? Kellen asked. 6.8 clicks, she replied evenly. It's the only shot that keeps the team outside his perimeter. Marco Ruiz gave a nervous grin. That's nearly 4 miles. Ma'am. Sierra's tone never changed. Then we better make it count. They touched down 20 clicks west of Silvercliff Basin, jagged ridges and dead valleys stretching forever. Kellen's voice crackled in the comms alpha. Set overwatch. Ruiz, you're with Vale. We only get one window. Sierra climbed the ridge, the desert wind biting her face, through her night force scope. The target zone shimmered, a Caracal helicopter idling on a hot pad. Wind, 12 knots, quartering left. Ruiz called, confirmed. She whispered, one breath, one heartbeat. The rifle cracked. 9 seconds later, a metallic scream echoed through the valley. The rotor hub exploded, blades scattering like shrapnel. Direct hit. Ruiz breathed, but celebration died in the same breath. Multiple hostiles inbound from the east. Kellen shouted, heavy weapons, they knew we were coming. Gunfire erupted from below, tracers ripping through the sand. Sierra grabbed Ruiz. Move. They fell back through a ravine, rounds chewing the rock around them. Kellen's voice was taut. Hart's men flanked every approach lane. Someone leaked our coordinates. Ruiz's eyes widened. A leak inside our team. Sierra didn't answer, but she already knew who she suspected. Lieutenant CMDR, Trent Mercer. They regrouped behind a dune wall. Kellen barked. Option, stay mobile. Sierra said, smoke cover. Counter-snipe if they close. Negative. Kellen cut in. Command wants Hart alive. Through her scope. Sierra caught sight of the man himself, calm, unhurried, stepping through the smoke with guards at his side, even from a kilometer away. He looked right at her and smiled. He wasn't surprised. He was expecting her. Moments later, Mercer's voice burst through the comms. Commander, I've got Hart's uplink. He's retreating to a secondary grid. I can trace it. Pierce frowned. How the hell do you have that frequency? Mercer's tone was smooth, because I trained men like him. But Sierra heard something else too fast. Too confident. Keep recording his channel, she ordered quietly. Minutes later, they reached an abandoned ore annex, their temporary fallback. Kellen slammed his fist on the map board. Sealed orders, encrypted comms. How did they ambush us? Pierce muttered. Maybe someone sealed it for them. All eyes turned to Mercer. He only smirked. If you're looking for a scapegoat, try command. Sierra's gaze didn't waver. Then you won't mind if I audit your logs? He shrugged. Be my guest. A distant thrum rolled across the basin. A helicopter. Too soon. Too quiet. Kellen's radio hissed. No friendly air assets in that sector. Sierra raised her rifle, scanning the skyline. That's not rescue, she said coldly. That's retrieval. The unmarked bird flared overhead. Side door open and inside, through desert glare, sat General Hart, smirking, alive. The call sign on the fuselage froze her blood. JSAD-9, not a foreign enemy, their own government. She lowered her rifle. The betrayal was complete. This isn't a mission, she said. It's a setup. Behind her. Mercer smiled faintly, the kind of smile that meant he already knew. The briefing room at Silvercliff Ore Annex felt colder than the desert outside. Fluorescent lights hummed above the heads of the Ravenhall team, 6 of the Navy's sharpest shooters, all staring at one another with the same thought: one of us sold the rest out. The air was heavy with mistrust. CMDR. Adrian Kellen slammed a file onto the table. Someone transmitted our exact coordinates to General Hart. That's not a coincidence. That's treason. Master Chief Pierce nodded grimly. 6 people had access to the op plan. No external leaks. The traitors in this room. Mercer leaned back in his chair, arms folded. You're accusing your own team. Commander, real morale booster. Sierra Vale Rowan didn't speak. She just watched Mercer, the small ticks in his jawline, the way he avoided looking at the mission logs on Kellen's screen. Something about him had been wrong since the extraction. Her voice was calm, measured. If the enemy knew we'd be there. They also knew I'd take the eastern ridge. Kellen frowned. You think you were the target. I think I was the test, she said. Heart was bait. The real play was seeing who I'd trust long enough to get close. Mercer gave a short laugh. That's paranoia, not tactics. Pierce cut in. Paranoia keeps people alive. Lieutenant Commander. The door burst open before anyone could respond. Sergeant Ruiz entered with a tablet in hand. Sweat on his forehead. Sir, Intel decrypt just came through from command. You need to see this. On the screen was a partial comm log, a burst transmission sent 10 minutes before the ambush. The sender's ID matched a secure frequency assigned to Mercer. Every eye turned toward him. That's impossible, Mercer said, standing quickly. Anyone could spoof my code, not with double verification. Pierce replied, not unless you had the master cipher. Kellen took a slow step forward. You want to explain how Hart's extraction team was flying under JSAD identification silence? Then Mercer smiled. Maybe you're finally asking the right question. He reached for his sidearm too late. Sierra's hand was faster. One sharp twist, a clean disarm, the pistol hitting the floor with a clatter. You're done, Kellen said. Mercer raised his hands slowly, calm even in defeat. You think you've uncovered the whole picture? Commander, but you haven't even seen the frame. What frame? Pierce demanded. The architect, Mercer said softly. You're not hunting a traitor. You're participating in an experiment. Kellen's jaw tightened. Mercer chuckled, shaking his head. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try us, Sierra said. He looked straight at her. Director Cole Vance, Joint Special Activities Director at JSAD-9. The man who built Wraith, the man who built you. The room froze. Sierra didn't move. But something behind her eyes shifted recognition, or rage, or both. You're lying, she said quietly. Mercer leaned forward. Am I? Who do you think authorized your reactivation? Who kept your files sealed after Black Meridian collapsed 6 years ago? You were never recalled. You were reactivated because he wanted to see if the experiment still worked. Kellen's voice was low, deadly. What experiment? Cognitive overclock protocol. Mercer answered. Enhanced neural patterning. Perfect recall. Predictive firing models. You're not just a sniper. Vale, you're a living prototype. Sierra stared at him, trying to decide which was worse, that he was lying, or that he wasn't. Pierce stepped closer. And you, what was your role in this? Mercer's smirk returned. Quality control. The words hung in the air like a trigger half pulled. Kellen gave the order, secure him, as Ruiz cuffed Mercer's wrists. The man kept talking calm. Confident. Certain. You think you're in control, but the architect already knows this conversation is happening. Every word, every signal, every move monitored. You're all just pieces in his calibration run. Sierra leaned down close to him, voice low and sharp. Then tell your architect this. His system just failed. Mercer's smile faltered for the first time. Outside, the desert wind picked up again, carrying the sound of an approaching helicopter. Kellen glanced toward the window. We didn't call for exfil. Pierce checked the radar feed. No transponder. Unmarked. Mercer's tone darkened. Too late. He's here. The building shook as the chopper descended onto the plateau. Floodlights swept across the compound. The team scrambled for cover. Weapons ready. Kellen barked orders. Defensive perimeter, Ruiz. Get Mercer into the bunker. But Mercer twisted free. shouting over the noise. "You don't understand. If I go back with them, I'm dead gunfire ripped through the night, glass exploding inward." Unknown operators stormed the annex black armor. No insignia, no identifiers. The team returned fire. Precision bursts cutting through the dark. Sierra took position by the window, dropping 2 advancing shadows with mechanical precision. "They're not here for us," she said between shots. "They're here to clean house." Kellen gritted his teeth. "Then we don't give them the broom." The firefight lasted minutes but felt like hours. When the last echo faded, the desert was silent again. Bodies littered the sand outside. The unmarked helicopter was already burning, struck by a stray round. Mercer lay bleeding near the entrance, hit by his own people. He looked up at Sierra, half grinning through the pain. "You think killing me stops him? You're just another piece." Vale, another move on his board. She knelt beside him. "Then I'll play better." His grin faded for good. As dawn crept over the horizon, Kellen stared at the wreckage. "We need to report this to command." Sierra shook her head. "Not command. Not yet." Pierce frowned. "Then who?" She looked east, toward the rising light over the Mirzai ridgeline. "The architect built WRAITH. He used me once. If he's still out there." She chambered around, the metallic click echoing through the silence. "Then it's time I returned the favor." The sun rose over Ravenhall Range like a slow-burning fuse, painting the desert gold and crimson. The war was over, or at least this one was. Smoke still curled above the wreckage at Silver Cliff, a silent monument to the cost of secrets. Inside the command tent, CMDR, Adrian Kellen stood before a new set of orders. The Joint Chiefs had disbanded Project WRAITH, the files sealed. The research buried, the word itself classified as myth. But in the same envelope lay something else, a proposal. ALROG, Advanced Long-Range Operations Group, a clean slate, a second chance. Kellen looked across the range where Sierra Vale Rowan was already setting up her rifle. Her silhouette was sharp against the morning light, steady. Quiet, exactly as she'd been the first day she walked onto this sand. But now, something had changed. She wasn't hiding from her past anymore. She was using it to build something stronger. Master Chief Pierce approached, a cup of burnt coffee in hand. "She's been out there since dawn," he said, teaching them wind calls, correction factors, breathing cycles, the things no manual covers. Kellen nodded. The things WRAITH never understood: discipline without control, power without purpose. They watched as Sierra spoke to a group of young snipers, 20 men and women standing in formation, rifles at rest, eyes fixed on her. Her voice carried easily through the dry air. "Precision isn't about hitting a target," she said. "It's about knowing why you're taking the shot. You don't pull the trigger for pride, or records, or orders. You pull it because someone else's life depends on your steadiness. You miss, they fall. You hit, they go home." One of the recruits raised a hand. "Ma'am, were you really part of Project WRAITH?" Sierra smiled faintly. "Once, but WRAITH was about creating perfection. We're not chasing that anymore. We're chasing clarity." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of dust and gun oil. Behind her, a new banner fluttered against the sunrise. ALROG, every shot for a reason. As training resumed, Pierce turned to Kellen. "You think she'll ever rest?" Kellen shook his head. "No, but I think she's finally aiming at something worth hitting." Later, when the range emptied, Sierra lingered alone at her firing mat. She set her rifle down beside a folded photo, her brother, Captain Ethan Rowan, smiling in uniform. She traced the edge of the picture with her thumb. "You were right," she whispered. "It was never about distance. It was about purpose. She slid the photo into her pocket, chambered around, and faced the horizon. The wind was steady, just enough resistance to remind her she was alive. Her voice was calm, resolute. For every name they erase, we'll train another who remembers. The shot rang out, echoing across the highlands, fading into the vast quiet. In war or in life, precision isn't about hitting what's in front of you, it's about standing for what's behind you. True strength isn't silence, it's control.